Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 22nd online reading event. My name is Tom Snarski, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to host this group of readers with you tonight. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, usually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. At each of our events, we normally feature up to 10 different readers who each have around 5 minutes, and tonight, fortunately for us, it's going to be longer than that, to share a selection of their writing with us in the Skype call. Having all these slots every month means we're always looking for folks who would be interested in reading with us, and if they're a past reader or a new reader, you're more than welcome. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, please get in touch with us via the Performance Anxiety Twitter account. It's at PerformanceANXT, all one word. Or you can DM the co-organizers directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky, TOMSNARSKY on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can email me at tomsnarsky@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, our other co-organizer, who I'm also very excited to introduce as our first reader of the evening. So Kristin Garth, who I have the privilege to introduce first tonight, is the author of 17 books of poetry, including Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream, The Meadow, which is my favorite, and Candy Cigarette Woman Child Noir. She's the dollhouse architect of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, and has a weekly sonnet podcast called Kristin Whispers Sonnets. She's editing an anthology on the film Eyes Wide Shut for the Daily Drunk, and submissions for it are open now. Thank you very much, Kristin. I'm excited to read some of the poems, or hear some of the poems you're going to read today.
All right. Yes, I am editing an anthology for the Daily Drunk on the movie Eyes Wide Shut, which I've always loved and have written a few poems about. And so I'm going to read one of those first. And you can find submission guidelines for the anthology at the Daily Drunk under their ebook section. And it's like under coming soon. Denmark. You wander into Denmark uninvited, enticed by naked sounds, my gated grounds, aphrodisiac someone recited inside a piano bar, staccato sounds of penetration with a mask. If asked, one uttered word, Denmark, becomes a key to verboten, velvet-cloaked sodomy, backbent whores and antique tabletop orgies, a blinded man's prophecy, his proffer towards a rotten state made masquerade, where even a doctor is considered pauper. Trespasser in a billionaire's gangbang charade. I am secretly maintained, manicured. You can violate me with a word. And to read another sexual poem, I'm going to be reading this one I wrote the other day called Pet the Bunny. I used to serve in houses with hierarchies, inhabitants instructed, visitors flown in like me for the ceremonies where we were posed before inquisitors. The master chose to pet the bunny, pull its hair, rip away the underwear. How I would wiggle before them, pink, the excavated, hidden heat, forbidden hair. I was a ritual before I was even there. Something supple in a cage. Something legally of age. Something paused and poised in lights. Something whose buried rage you let loose some nights, then send me away to woods befitting my naivete. And the next one is a poem I wrote about recently about stripping, and I was telling somebody about how painful it is on your knees and how for years after stripping, I did not want to be on my knee. I mean, it's a hard job on your body. And part of when you're in a strip club is you don't want to look like the experienced girl or the hunter. You know, you want to look like, especially I was like the schoolgirl, so I wanted to look, oh, I just wandered in here and I have no idea, what's about to happen here, and so you didn't want to look injured. You didn't want to look like somebody who's been there. So anyway, this is about where I would wear a Hello Kitty Band-Aid and I'd have to choose which knee, hurt worse to get the Band-Aid. So anyway, Hello Kitty Band-Aid. I used to crawl professionally, a Hello Kitty Band-Aid upon an imperiled knee, the other equally as sore. though I must each night determine which one hurts more. One, it's pretend, a useful accessory in schoolgirl fashion to complement plaid I twirl in, 5-inch platform heels, mean green neon world. Two, it means I'm not what I seem, virgin, newbie, to this topless scene. But veteran, despite my pigtails, wounded wolf, sheep-skinned. Imagine entrails of many strange men, to which I weakly, meekly, wounded, crawl, instead of a slightly used, naive fuck doll. And the next poem I'm going to read, I recently went to a butterfly preserve, and it was so, ethereal and gorgeous. But then at the same time, when I was there, I found out some really dirty truths about butterflies, and that's what this poem is about. The dirty truth about butterflies. It's easy for a religiously bred, misled girl to make an Eden of a garden, angels of winged, soon dead, repopulating in 3 weeks. But love's amino acids butterflies won't find in agapanthus nectar, waterfalls, forage upon foul ground. Why guides remind you always to look down. Scavengers fall for proteins essential to reproduce, even from refuse, urine, rot, or mud. Tears, also blood. This preserve could have used manure, corpses, to attract as much as buds. Butterflies adapt to horrors, fairy tales, and innocence also at home in hell. And then this poem is called Saturnalia, and I just wrote it yesterday. Yeah, okay. You wait until the husband sleeps behind their cottage upon taloned feet. Full moon illuminates a marital bed. Prayers evanesce, flesh is lead, where you commune in forests deep. After chase, rosy cheek, the neediness and nymphish hands, savage ceremonies of which she shall not speak. Since first she happened upon your Sabbath Saturnalia rites, the glistening tongues and clefts open by firelight, offered to you, fallen king. Around your legs she hung to offer everything. With retinue, you summon her every full moon night to satiate a herd of appetites. And finally, the last poem I'm going to read is one I wrote the other day that is going to be in Serotonin Poetry soon. And it's about Britney Spears and her conservatorship, and it's called Sick Little Girls. And because I relate very much to the control, and I had very religious parents who controlled me as long as they could, but Britney, it's been extended a lot longer. Sick little girls. We've got a sick little girl. We're just trying to take care of her. Jamie Spears. My client has informed me that she is afraid of her father, Sam Ingram, attorney for Britney Spears. My father threw chairs, said prayers, beat me until I begged, hands wandering between my legs, controlled each penny I received, worried only how he was perceived, not by the dregs at public school, by saints upturned lips would fool. Also my Laura Ashley dress too snug against my breast, can't help but glimpse the way they shudder as the lungs suppress the shrieks of a violent distress of the sickest little girls. Minors they can hide away from the world legally, even call love with padded rooms and rubber gloves. Statewide commitment takes 2 relatives to sign. Threat I'll outgrow, though Britney remains confined. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Kristin, for getting things started tonight and for bringing Britney Spears into this space. Also for continuing the venerated performance anxiety tradition of new shit and reading new poems for the world. That again was Kristin Garth, co-organizer of Performance Anxiety, an amazing poet. You can talk to Kristin on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE, and you can visit her website to keep track of all her amazing projects. We were joking at the beginning of this that I think Kristin can put out a book between like 2 performance anxiety readings, so always have to check and make sure that my bio is updated for her. And that website is Kristin Garth, KristinGarth.com. Please do submit to that Eyes Wide Shut anthology at the Daily Drunk. It's going to be amazing. So without any further ado, I'm excited to introduce another returning performance anxiety reader, and I think she's already shared a little bit about one of the poems that she's going to read, which I'm super excited about, and that's Zora Satchell. And Zora Satchell is a 24-year-old Black queer poet who writes about mental illness, family, and friendship. She believes that poetry creates space to explore and heal from trauma, as well as allow us to imagine new worlds. She's a member of the Estuary Collective and holds a degree in ethnic studies from Colorado State University. She also serves as a reader for Borderlands, Texas Poetry Review, and OK Donkey Press. When she's not writing, she's obsessively consuming pop culture. She loves good dance music and watching movies. You can find her on Twitter at The Casual Revolt, all one word, where she lets her typos run wild. Also, where she may have previewed one of the poems that we're going to hear, so I'm so excited about it. Take it away, Zora. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me again, and also I'm really excited to read for y'all. I want to preface this: when I first signed up last month at the last reading, I thought I was gonna have new shit to share, and then I made the last minute decision to move across the country, so that's not true. But none of these poems, I should say most of these poems, haven't been read before, so in that sense they're new, question mark. All right, so the first poem is my All-American Rejects poem that I referenced on Twitter. So let me open up my document. All right, here it goes. It's called When They Set Me Free, parentheses, just put your hands on me. You're looking away, you're locked away in this hole, and all you want to do is touch somebody. Nick Wheeler, lead guitarist of the All-American Rejects. The way your eyes never leave me, the way you lean to feel the heat of my lips as they brush across your ear. We're in a bar, so there's no way you can hear me better. I smile as I lean in. The song plays a little louder as I pull away. We sing along. Eyes never break contact. And it feels like so much. I wanna just touch you. When you look at me with this burning, this flirting feeling, like adding kindling to a quiet fire, warm as long as you're leaning in close enough. Your hands cling to your beer, shy again, eyes lingering on my lips as the song fades out. And this next poem is called Pandora's Parable. I wrote it back in 2016, early 2017, and it's one of the poems that I'm most proud of. So here goes. Born out of the cracked laughter of a broken heart, I was crafted out of rainwater and smoke, with the stones of earth forming my bones and rose quartz for a heart. My fairy godmother blessed me with the gift of words. This one, she said, can create as she speaks. I was a myth in the making. Vicious knowledge was my inheritance. The king of lies, my father. Ironic, 'cause the blue fairy gifted me with the curse of truth. This one will know no tricks. Falsehoods shall never leave her lips, said she, as the cruel smile of fate haunts her face. My mother, the moon, gave me only her sorrow. May it nurture your wariness with a fierceness, and let it guide you towards forgiveness. I was meant to rule heaven by her side, but I was spirited away to earth by the trickster king known only to me as father. He poisoned my spirit with deception and doubt. He bestowed me with false faith that forever severed me from heaven. This next poem was my first poem published this year. It's called Ocean's Offerings. I grew my hair down to my knees. The curls become ocean waves, heavy with lightly coiled coral reef heartache and seaweed truths knotted into the roots. I brushed it every day, combed through each strand. I took the time to care for each spiral, nurture each secret, anoint my scalp with oils of coconut and lavender so the skin may be strong enough to carry such weight. I braid these waves into a still water crown, each braid boxed at the root, a singular wish wrapped together like a promise. I grew my hair out as an offering to her. This oracle of revelations, her three faces of fate hold time itself. Her skin, black obsidian, fathomless in its reflecting light. Her nose wide like a yam. She couldn't be taller than I, yet she towered above me, larger than life. I offered her my hair, my still water truths heavy on my head. Her hands reach out to me. They rest on my cheeks. She says, "Must you carry all this? Water must never stay still." All right, and my final poem is called Rope Rhyme. Miss Susie has a cell phone. The cell phone has a bell. Miss Susie makes a phone call that should send her straight to hello operator. I'm calling 911. I know you will connect me because this black man's gonna draw up all these questions, gonna tell a lot more lies. The boys are in the bathroom hiding from the pigs are in the meadow. The flies are in the park. Miss Susie and a boyfriend are kissing in the DARK, 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 darker than the ocean, blacker than oil in the sea, blacker than all the little black girls lost in Washington, D.C. All right, everybody. That was my poems. I hope you liked them. And I can't wait to hear everybody else read.
That was fantastic, Zora. Thank you so much. The chat is exploding, and Skype chat is an antiquated beast, but even it's trying to contain all the excitement of that last poem. That was so cool, and we were so lucky to get to hear it tonight. That again was Zora Satchell, who is a returning performance anxiety reader, kills it every time. At The Casual Revolt on Twitter, so TheCasualRevolt. And Zora's too humble to brag about her own work in this little form we send out to all our readers, but please, you should consider reading her 5 poems from in August when she was a feature at Drunk Monkey's Web, a great place, and the poems in there are amazing. And also, please check out her Twitter because there's a fundraiser to get Zora installed in Queens safely. That cross-country move doesn't move itself, I know. So again, thank you so much for those amazing poems and for setting the bar way high. That was awesome. So yeah, well, as I collect myself and try to alt tab fast and seamlessly, our next reader, who I'm super excited to introduce, a first-time reader at Performance Anxiety, is Jeni De La O. And Jeni De La O is an Afro-Cuban poet and storyteller out of Detroit. She's co-founder of the Estuary Collective and edits poetry for Kissing Dynamite. Jeni, thank you so much for being here and for repping the Estuary Collective. Thank you, and take it away.
Thank you for having me. Tough act to follow. Okay, I'm going to read. None of these are necessarily new poems, but they've not been performed before. I have a very limited performance history. I have a little bit of performance anxiety. So I'm going to start off with a poem that was published by Ghost City Review. It's called 2.0, and it's sort of about anxiety and technology and what we would give to be rid of our anxiety and where that all goes. So he was so happy that day, came home with a big box. Its name is Dorian. How clever is that, he said. I remember feeling amused and warm that he knew the story. I should have wondered how much he remembered, how much it would take. Instead, I laughed. Set it up. This will be good for him, I prayed. Not that he wasn't okay, but we were all striving for a better tomorrow starts today, flashed on that display. Dorian, silver spear, sat expectantly while my husband read careful directions, when to recharge, how to connect, Wi-Fi integration, voice recognition, gave it his name and life, allow access, allow access, allow access, always listening, plotting, data points, to a better you in 30 seconds. That's the promise. Touch Dorian here and let it swallow your anxieties whole. All the, is this email too direct? Is my hair thinning? Everybody hates me. My pants are too tight. My skin is too dull. Am I too old for this? Do I belong here? Will they know I'm a fraud? Am I such a burden? Why am I this way? Will my children's children be indentured to Fedloan too? Is the sun going to explode? Is this job going to last? Will I have enough? What is enough? Am I enough? I'm not enough. I'm almost 30. What have I done? What can we do to afford a house? Gone. And to every I am failing, Dorian says, you are only tricking yourself into failing. At first, things were great. My husband, out of bed at 6 a.m. to make coffee, was delightful. Dorian, glowing in the corner, a minor dread. He was easily swept under the rush of our days. He was faster and lovelier and out of his own way. He is out of his own way. I really did start to think that. I watched my love loop himself into a bow and a lasso and a tightrope, across which deals inched forward, he a lifeline to me, drowning in an ocean of, you should try it, he said. No, I'll leave my body to the rot and the chemists. The broken cupboard of my neurology holds its chips mugs well enough. Synapses rattling and hormones coursing as they do, but damn it if a little part of me didn't love the newly balanced, agile, and relentlessly focused man in bed with me, at the store with me, present with me. So with me that I didn't even notice the first shots fired. Who would notice anything with an empty laundry hamper and an oven full of warm bread? His canceled dentist appointment, a fluke. Because I don't review my credit card statements or listen to my voicemails, I miss the early signs of system overload. Business dinner vanished from his calendar? That's odd. Once I said to him, honey, what does Dorian do with all the bad things he takes away from you? And we tumbled into a discussion of what constitutes badness and relativity, and whether or not fairness should even enter the argument, where artificial intelligence is involved. This isn't Terminator, he'd grinned as we fell into bed, and Dorian glowed in the corner, ominous. But the kissing was so good, I forgot to say all those bad things have to go somewhere. I forgot to tell him about Octavia Butler's organism ship and how what we bury has consequences. Our private pictures texted to his mother? Alarming. Where do all the bad things go? Into the cloud. Into the cloud. A month later, when my happy, soaring Icarus crashed home from work with a box full of all his things, we were too late. Every draft email in his draft folder, sent. He snapped. A gladiator in cargo shorts wielding my meat tenderizer. This isn't Terminator, I shouted. Pieces of Dorian splintered and ricocheting off our freshly painted walls. I watched my husband swing and smash until my protestations crumbled and were swept into the dustpan. He packed up all the shards of it, every scrap of steel, and shipped them back to Boston with a note. This may not be Terminator, but this machine has to be stopped. My wife always says we can't will our emotions away. We have to deal with them. They have to go somewhere. Perhaps I should thank Dorian for putting me through this hell, because I see now she's right. If you have any sense, you'll scrap this project. It was over. Like taking your shoes off after a long flight. Little by little, the dents disappeared, and we eased back into our inferior selves. Pettiness and procrastination spread like salve over our mechanical gouge. And just when the laundry bin was piled high enough to feel normal again, another box arrived. The note read, Dear Icarus, thank you for your feedback. Another beta tester experienced similar interface malfunctions with Dorian 1.0. We've worked that all out now. Instead of uploading to the cloud, Dorian 2.0 captures all that toxicity in a 3D printed cube. Care to give it a whirl? That's 2.0. It's a little long. I don't know where I am with the time now. Okay. This next poem I'm going to read is unpublished. So, okay, new. And it's at the beginning of the pandemic in April when everyone was doing a 30 for 30. I did a prompt online. I can't remember who posted it, but basically the idea was to imagine your personal history as a garden. So this is Garden Walk as Catalog. If the grass seems squirmier, more vivid, like it might have muscles, if you could touch it, Don't fight that sensation. This is a flood of serotonin, flashing joy, so overwhelming it can wash away the idea of roller skating or climbing a tree. A holy t-shirt lies dormant for 20 years and suddenly blooms, blue and maize hoodies smelling of cider donuts, and well-worn Converse chrysalis for decades, emerging as a pair of Pumas you almost forgot. Transmorgification is simple and unsurprising in this garden. Placards etched in an alphabet of discarded letters. Cuttings nursed to language from loose-leaf journal entries hidden in random books. Fluttering yellow leaves become scalpels, gently scraping sclera, removing a lovesick wasp's wing that got lost in your eyes on a warm summer night, whispering, "Your body will not let me go." Tilled soil returns your senses, returns cutaway spaces, ileum, appendix, gallbladder, too many teeth, so you can hear your body spinning scar tissue bundles of silk, skeins wider than your wounds, whispering, "Your body will not let you go." Okay, thank you. I think the last, if there's time for one more, I will read Daffodils of Detroit. This is a personal favorite of mine. It's not published anywhere, but something that happens in Detroit, I imagine in most of the Midwest. I'm from Florida, and we don't have snow where I'm from. We've got plenty of it outside my house right now. And every spring around my birthday, it gets really warm and the daffodils come out, and it's a cruel joke because then it snows the next weekend and they're always trapped under the ice and they're pitiful. So I wrote a poem about them. It's called Daffodils of Detroit. Lured by hot lick sunshine and mud that swallows whole, they never had a chance. Bloomed too early. I peeked you, daffodil, swaying, you good, in the breeze of every exhaust, too good and sweet. Your neck can't turn back on itself to see what was coming for you from the moment you split seed, unexpected, expected frost. Hear them laughing? Fake spring, second spring, spring breakers, break spring, and now I see your limp body and wonder, you good? Or I'll see you next year. So that's it for me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jenny. That was wonderful. And again, that was Jeni De La O, who you can find on Twitter at Jeni De La O, all one word, JeniDelao. And you can find the Estuary Collective, of which both Jenny and Zora are members, at the Estuary 4 on Twitter, TheEstuary 4. And their inaugural reading, Lip Service, is coming January 15th. So visit estuarycollective.org for more information and follow them again at the Estuary 4 on Twitter, because you do not want to miss more poems like the ones we just heard. That was absolutely spectacular. So right in the middle of our reading order is a returning PA reader who I'm super excited to introduce and whose literary citizenship and writing I admire a lot, and that is Pat Foran. Pat Foran has work in or coming from Tiny Molecules, X-Ray, Large-Hearted Boy, OK Donkey, and others. He lives in Milwaukee, and he's about to read a story that completely fucked me up. So thank you, Pat, for being here. I'm so excited to hear.
Well, thanks for asking, Tom. I'm going to read something that didn't fuck you up first. It's short, and then the second piece. So 2 short pieces. This was published 2 months ago in Dream Journal. It's called Hope. Because there was no hope, he did not reply to the note, an apology, she left on the couch, his side, his cushion. Because there was no hope, he did not put on his SP30 sunscreen or his HD Vision Special Ops sunglasses before going out in the midday sun. Because there was no hope, he stopped thinking about how his actions or inactions could affect people or the world around him. Because there was no hope, she picked up the note she wrote, read it aloud in a voice that resembled his, and laughed a loud and long laugh that did not sound like a laugh. Because there was no hope, she posted a YouTube clip, It Doesn't Matter Anymore by Linda Ronstadt, on Happy Twitter. Because there was no hope, she walked with the bagel hound to the corner market to pick up a TSA-compliant travel kit and one last box of Miracle Grow, half singing the theme from Family Matters along the way. Because there was no hope, there was no hope. Because there was no hope, the sun dissolved, a melatonin tablet under his, or maybe her, tongue. Because there was no sun, he left the sunscreen, sunglasses, and a note of non-apology on the couch, her side, her cushion, and took the last train for the coast. Because there was no sun, she fed the spider plants one last time, the spiderettes reaching up and out like little hands for the grow or the car keys, or up and out to brush lightly her cheek. Because there was no sun, there were no days. Because there were no days, the night wore velvet dinner jackets to candlelit breakfasts with the spider plants, talking of faithless love, the squinting of skies, and the tremble that is belief, when believing is, the night liked to say, as big as the sun. Okay, thanks. The next piece was published last month in Wigleaf. Content warning, suicide. I sang the telephone book to you the day you hung yourself with a belt tied around the curtain rod above your bathtub. Or I sang it to you the day after, a week later, a month. It doesn't matter. What matters is I sang the phone book to you. The day I realized you might love me, I told you about the singing the phone book thing, singing being something I think about when I think about love. I asked if you knew the old line, how a great singer could sing any song, any lyric, anything written, including the phone book, and it would sound great. It would be great. The singer, usually a singer's singer, like Edith Piaf or Vic Damone, would sing it in a way no one else could. The singer would make the phone book their own, and people would say, I never heard anything like this. How did you do that? Thank you for sounding like this, for singing this way, for sounding like this and singing this way in my lifetime. And you liked it when I told you this. You said you wanted to hear me sing the phone book, sing it to you, sing it when you would least expect. Sing it so you could hear my voice, hear me. You didn't know if it would be great, my singing. You didn't care if it would suck. You wanted to hear me sing the phone book to you, someday. I told you I would surprise you. I would sing it to you someday. It could be a distraction, the kind you were afraid you'd run out of. While I was telling you this, the light came to the notch where your neck met your collarbone, and I realized I might love you too. Or I realized it the day after, a week later, a month. It doesn't matter. What matters is I realized I might love you, and I would sing the phone book to you someday. You told me you imagined the phone book would be tricky to sing. Trickier than the Star-Spangled Banner, or that I've been to paradise, but I've never been to me. So, because the phone book is all alphabetized and shit. All those companies putting all those A's in front of their names to compete for your attention, compete for your call. Singing words that weren't words, words that began with 4 or 5 A's in a row had to be hard, you said. I told you I would practice, I would work on it, I would get that A thing down. And I practiced, I got the A thing down. It didn't matter if I got it down, if I sucked at singing the phone book, or if I sang it great. What mattered was you wanted me to sing the phone book to you. You wanted to hear my voice, to hear me, and I was sure I would sing it to you soon. Whether I sang the phone book to you soon or soon enough is a time and space question I'm not sure I can answer. And I don't know if I suck or don't suck at singing it. It doesn't matter. What matters in a moment when I uncharacteristically feel this side of certain is every letter A and every word of every lyric of every song I've sung since you died is a letter A I sang for you, to you, and in a time and space thing I do feel sure about, with you. What matters is the harmony. Love and loved and will love. Thanks.
My God, yeah, that was Pat Foran, who, in addition to showing such incredible love, Pat tweets the most beautiful read-throughs of literary magazines and new work that comes out through them, and promos so many other great writers. And to get to hear Pat himself read this awesome stuff is a great joy, and to hear that story in particular, that piece, was my privilege. So thank you, Pat. It's like getting my shit together. Thank you. That
Thanks
again was Pat Foran. Yes, at PD Foran on Twitter. Please again follow Pat, not only to follow his own writing, which is amazing, but also the incredibly charitable attention he gives to all sorts of awesome new stuff that's coming out. And you can find all kinds of Pat's writing. That story that I'm in love with was on Wigleaf, and also his other stuff is on neutralspaces.co/your_Pat Foran, YOUR_PATFORAN. Well, okay, so I'm like, again, slowly getting my shit together. But as we enter the back half of our reading order, so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I'm here, I'm ready. But now I'm very excited to introduce another reader who has incredible literary citizenship and who has been just an amazing inspiration for me, not only as a writer, but also as an editor, and that is Melissa Ashley Hernandez. And Melissa is a Latinx writer and the founding editor-in-chief of the Minisan Project, which I love with all my heart. She's currently earning her MFA in creative writing and publishing, and her poetry can be found in the Minisan Zine, the Daily Drunk Magazine, and Famadan Journal. Her upcoming chapbook, The Love in Between, comes out January 20th, and her pieces tonight are all going to be from that beautiful chapbook. So thank you, Melissa. Go ahead, take it away. I'm excited to hear the chat poems.
Okay, yeah. I'm still kind of reeling from that too. What a poem to follow, huh? Incredible. So all of these poems that I'm about to read are all from my chapbook, The Love in Between, which is coming out in January 20th. I write a lot about love. I write a lot about family. And I write a lot about the love you can find just within your life, throughout life and things like that. So the first poem I'm going to read, I actually wrote it while I was in Ireland last summer. Remember when we could take trips? Yeah, that was great. So, Calling Mom Mobile. I miss it. It could be that I miss it most when I'm in unfamiliar territory, but regardless. The skies here are always gray, even when the hot sun bakes the uneven cobblestone. Home is plush green grass and the cherry blossom petals that adorn it every spring. Even the flowers here are different, although yesterday I saw one that reminded me of Mama's smile. Home is raking up acorns every fall and laughing as we remind my brother of how he used to call them coconuts because at 6 he couldn't quite wrap his lips around the right words yet. Here it rains more often than not, which is not as bad as it sounds, at least if you don't get caught in it. Just like home, a cup of hot tea can make rain look like magic. Okay, so that was that one. My next poem, thank you. My next poem is, I wrote it about my grandfather. My grandfather passed in 2017 in my senior year of college. It was a really hard time for me, and I found that I was at a loss for words for a really long time. And at that time, I hadn't quite found my way back to writing. And when I did, I found that there were a lot of words that I had to say about him. So I have this poem and another poem about him as well in my chapbook, but this one specifically is called Abuelo's Spirit. Elderly man in the bodega, you tell me that I'm very beautiful. I force a smile and say thank you. 22, and I am already numb to men's compliments. Then you look into my eyes and speak to me of inner beauty, pointing towards my heart. Eso vale más de que dinero. I squeeze your arm, smiling tenderly this time, your words echoing in my mind. Abuelo used to say that often. I buy my bread and walk back up the street. So there's that one. That one's done. This thing has the perfect title because I really do get performance anxiety. And I have an undergrad in acting directing, and I still get nervous reading. This upcoming poem is called The Block. Unable to work, I took a walk, layered hat, gloves, coat, scarf, boots, and hustled down the uneven pavement, wet from last night's rain, to the little park down the block. I walked in circles around swings and slide, kicked damp mulch traced with fingers, circle patterns on green benches. After some time, I walked home. I entered through my backyard gate, listening to the creaking of the trees and the late-night shuffling raccoons. I climbed to the top of the small hill and, cold seeping in my bones, jumped 3 times, third time catching heel in a rabbit hole and sliding down the muddy slope. At the bottom stood our youngest Peach, still naked from winter. Taking off my glove, I reached for the base of a limb. Branch by branch, I felt in amazement. The tiniest buds had started to bloom. And I have 2 more. One a little lengthy, and then the other one is a little short, so I'll end on a more positive note. This poem is called Seagulls. Sitting on the Sandy Hook shoreline with my toes pressed into the gritty sand and Billy Collins lying on my lap, I breathe in the crisp ocean air and close my eyes. I hear a distant bird's cry and look to the sky to watch the airborne scavengers fight for a French fry and a few scraps of bread. As my eyes catch on the New York City skyline, my mind can't help but wander her streets. Her poor sidewalk beggars pleading for spare change or searching alleyway dumpsters for measly leftovers like awning pigeons, othered by those lucky enough to be the passers-by. Not allowed to sleep on park benches, forced to take their newspaper blankets and make their beds on cold concrete. There they stay, sitting silent on stone, in the rain, sleet, heat, and snow. Does anyone ever realize when they are gone? Do any of their names ever get written in the pale sky? The seagulls circle in the air around me as if to flaunt their feathered advantage. I am mesmerized by these greedy birds that scan the crowd for faultless children to dispossess them of a chip or two, a meal fit for an avian king. Okay, and then my last one is just called plainly Love. Okay. Love. My head rises and falls with your chest as I read you poems from my journal. You say you never understood poetry until the passion in my voice seeped through your skin and intertwined with your bones. I reach one about you and quickly turn the page, but you place your hand on mine. Show me the metaphors you use to paint me. Your words are the sweetest palette. Your lips, the most beautiful paintbrush. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. That again was Melissa Ashley Hernandez, who had just read to us some poems from the chapbook The Love in Between, which I believe is coming out from Lazy Adventure. Is that right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. And that comes out on January 20th of 2021. It'll be the first, we know about some like second or third most important thing that's happening on January 20th, 2021, but this is the first most important thing that's happening on January 20th, 2021.
Yeah, what
and
a
the
date,
pre-orders, yeah, right. And the pre-orders are going to start very soon. They start right at the turn of the year, the beginning of January, so check out Lazy Adventure for that. Also, again, she's editor-in-chief of the Mini-San Project, an amazing project related that gives some space to small poems, and they're currently open for submissions for their monthly issues and for their brand new biannual sonnet issue. So I know we have some sonneteers on the call. I hope you'll consider checking out the Mini-San Project. Please follow Melissa herself on Twitter at MACHWriting, MACHWRITING, and on Instagram at Melissa MACH Writing, all one word. Yeah, so I'm excited to enter. I know it's always a little bittersweet to get to our last couple readers of the evening, but I'm excited to introduce another reader who's a returner to performance anxiety and who's going to be actually a bit more involved with performance anxiety going forward in a very exciting capacity, and that is Samuel J. Fox. Samuel J. Fox is an essayist and poet living in the southern U.S. He's poetry editor at Bending Genres and has been published in numerous online and print journals. Sam, thank you for being here, as always, and I'm excited to hear what you're going to share with us tonight.
Thanks, Tom. I'm that kind of poet that talks before he does any poems, and I hate that about me, but it's just how I am. So it's winter. This is a winter poem. I'm gonna try to keep it short. My talking. So, fragments before the coldest winter storm in a century. Trigger shy, the clouds withhold their water. It's no matter. My shadow says it can read the braille in sleet. The dying cattails swoosh their dumb, beautiful heads in the wind, as though numbers and degrees doesn't exist to them. The ivy, dead on the white picket fence, needs to be plucked. Elsewise, who could see the white paint behind the dark rose bushes? Random winter lightning scrapes serpentine behind an armada of cloud cover. Somewhere, the devil leads hoofprints in muddy snow. There is always a war with subtlety inside the self. How do you explain grief? It isn't a lack of something, darkness and absence of light, or silence the lack of petulant sound. You were here once. Grief cannot be a lack of happiness if happiness, like a fox, flits back between the swatches of blackberry brambles. You were here once. My jawline remembers your fingernail, as though you scratched a scar in me that I recall as joy. The clouds finally decide enough with patience. Like a telephone at 3 a.m., I don't wish to answer my God. And the rain turns to ice the moment it kisses the pavement. And the power lines, the next morning, will be like finding a garment discarded for years beneath the first place you looked for it. Oh, how I looked for it. All this indelible truth. My next poem is a love poem. And this is called Gratitude. I hope you guys like this one. It took a lot for me to write this one. As the gallop of windblown leaves crescendos through the cooling days ahead, I'd like to thank you for breaking my heart. The way the gravel giggles beneath my combat boots, the way the streetlights buzz in their white gossamer shine, these long, desolate, drizzle-drenched walks towards loving the self, all lead to ways I've learned to live with the bloated sadness and being broken. There is still so much gratitude I could express in memories. But in reality, anguish has become an anchor. Your empty ring finger, a vanishing morning star. And yet, the love remaining, like a little thread I have tied to my thumb, so that were you to return, I can reel myself back out of the fog and into clarity. I can still be grateful for the constellations of freckles just above your collarbone, the way I named it goodness. And I can still be grateful for the hearth of your solar plexus, like a lived-in home. I can still be grateful for the wet of your lips, the lush, rosy clamor that may never be mine. Love is what we name the things that we would miss were they gone, not fully realizing that all things go. Whether monument or mausoleum, I want to say to you, I'm grateful for the way you've both broken and rekilned me. My heart full of cracks, my heart overflowing. I'm going to read two more poems. Thank you, guys. This one is a really short poem. And it's basically, I'm trying to write a collection that I sent stupidly, and now that I think about it, it was stupid, but I sent it to the Yale Younger Poets Award this year. And this is one of the, no, I sent it. It's just, I'm going to start to regret it. But this is a poem called Nocturne, which I read a lot of. I love nocturnes, in which the poet examines his hands. Unremarkable, and yet miracle. I take them for granted. The way in moonlight they appear like pale granite, dirt and concrete flecks under my nails, blood and scab on one particular knuckle. I turn them over and over, as if expecting them to disappear. I use them daily without appreciation. The world is knowable without them, but without them, the world can't be held. I take my two fingers and blot out the moon. I space my fingers apart, just enough to wear it, as though a ring refracting under light. This world is enough. It is all I have. I point my index finger out to try and poke Ursa Major. Some things I cannot have, but somehow still do. And then I'll read one more poem for you guys. This is, the title's weird, but it kind of explains itself. Everybody, when when people ask you, are you okay, or how you're doing, and you want to basically say what you actually feel, but you don't, you just say okay or don't respond at all. The title of this poem is called You Ask Me If I'm Okay, and My Response is Silence. There are days shame is a long hangnail on the hand reaching toward us. I am many things, but good is a debatable response. Once, in Arkansas, I saw a dirt devil pirouette between two pines, kicking up clay, as though God were wheezing in a fit of laughter. Language is only as good as the reasons we use it. There are days guilt is the rearview mirror and a reminder that whatever looks into it is culpable. Lying isn't a sin, but a fence between truth and reason. Once, in Pennsylvania, I saw a black bear and it saw me, I don't know who saw whom clearer, but it ran from me when I passed by it. I want to say that your question is one I've been asking forever. There are days when my shadow is darker than the many reasons I like to be alone. Tell me again that you love me, because I find it unbelievable. Once I didn't believe in ghosts. Now I see them everywhere and everyone, including me. This is the part in the poem where I explain that God made me beautiful, but useless in his likeness. Ask me again, please. I want to make sure you understand. Thank you, guys.
That was beautiful, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing those poems with us. The chat was blowing up with, I was like the Ursa Major, and then the poem, and then the bear, and the next poem. I was like, my God. I'm glad you're sending that collection all over the damn place. Do that. That again was Samuel J. Fox, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at Samuel J. Fox, SamuelJFox, poetry editor at bendinggenres.com, and soon, in the very not so distant future, Sam will be helping us with our performance anxiety Instagram account, which is something we don't have yet, will have soon, and we'll be excited to be profiling some past performance anxiety readers and boosting their work and all that good stuff. And Sam has been incredibly helpful and taking the lead on that. And so we're super excited to get that off the ground. So that's going to be super awesome. And again, please check out Sam's work on Twitter, Instagram, and elsewhere, and watch out, because that collection is going to be out there in the world someday. So our very, very last reader, another new reader to performance anxiety, someone I'm very excited to introduce, I believe, via Gaia Rajan, another performance anxiety reader from last month's reading, and that's Sofia Fey. Sofia Fey is a queer and non-binary writer living in LA. Primarily, they are a theater maker, filmmaker, and a writer of poetry and cartoons. Most recently, their work has appeared in Hooligan Magazine, Homonym Journal, and Kissing Dynamite. Currently, they're a reader for Stone of Madness Press. They're hoping to write for TV and publish a chapbook of their poetry. Thank you so much, Sofia, for being here with us. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share.
So this poem is not necessarily new because I wrote it in July, but it's new as in I haven't showed it to anyone and it is unpublished. It's called Letter from a Young Poet, and there's an epigraph. Do not write love poems. Avoid at first those forms that are too facile and commonplace. They are the most difficult, for it takes a great, fully matured power to give something of your own where good and even excellent traditions come to mind in quantity. Rainer Maria Rilke. Daddy Rilke, I've failed you. I'm a simp for the pussy, and when a girl gets me excited, there's no stopping the train. Even, but especially, when my head is on the tracks before it. Maybe you're intrigued now. Maybe that's where the poem is. My head is on the tracks, and I can't stop the train. In no cases, not even of emergency. Not when I pull down the chain is already around my neck. Forgive me, Daddy Rilke, for I have simped. Again, I lay my head on those tracks, and I say, rail me, young maiden. I've been waiting for someone like you to end me. I've wondered, though, when I'm satiated, when someone holds up the picture of their future and points to my face, says, I've been looking for you. Maybe that's where the love poems end and the life poems begin. You see, Daddy Rilke, everybody wants to be told they hit it right. But I want to be told there's no right after you. Thank you. This is a brand new one. It's called From the Body. You will get out of the water, or you will drown. You will stretch, if not today, tomorrow, or you will become creaky, and you will become it anyway. And you will become it anyway, all of it. The gemstone, the icicle, the prey, and the one feeding. It feels like decay, and it is, but not in the way you think right now. From decay starts the cycle, of which you know, of which you will see so many. You will see so many. I am currently working on an adaptation of Faust with the Prop Theater in Chicago. And I have been inspired to write a Faust collection. So this is one of the poems in that. And it's called Faust Arp, Yes, After the Radiohead Song. It has an epigraph. If Adam had the power to name everything, everything would be named Adam. Paige Lewis. Tosses down his feather pen, exclaims his utter boredom, our Faust is done learning. The chess flurries try to break their way through his ribs. He pumps his blood again. He says, I'm going to conjure the devil. And sure, he never considered teaching, running a 5K, learning to cook pad thai. Instead, it's time for demons. It's time for the under-earth, the under-expected. But who are you to judge? Every day waking more tired than the last, you contemplate ceasing sleep. You're all half shock, hardly charged, running on 15%. But Faust? He'd rather sell his soul than spend one more day on law, history, or medicine. You're wondering if there's any warning for him? Any texts telling him demons don't bring you a full life? There's plenty, but he's read them all. How like a man to think a thing greater than he must be magic. This is the last poem I'm going to read. It is not new, but it was recently published by Kissing Dynamite, which was a dream pub for me. And I didn't know that two of the editors would be reading with me today until recently. So glad you're here. This poem is called A Letter from My Hands to My Heart after Rachel McKibbins. Held contempt from other organs, giving you all the credit, blamed you, solely you, for all wrongdoings and for bringing us to barren lands when you must know we are for building. I'm the one with opposable thumbs. I'm the one that can write this list, yet without you, there would be nothing to move me. And do you realize your pulsed wanting, your infatuated flowing puts the whole decision on me? And I can ignore it, but you'll send more, layers for later. You'll hit me at 4 a.m. Your vein vines grow longer, cover more ground at night. And what if I have nothing to reach for? That wrinkly dude upstairs sucks. Certainly no help. Most certainly no help with you two arguing either. What do you want me to do if I have nothing to reach for? And if I do, what if they don't reach back? A letter from my heart to my hands. Open and close for me, would you? Again. Now let's talk about why you feel like you always have to build. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I feel like we went through a whole roller coaster of everything there. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Sophia, for closing us out on an incredible note. That again was Sofia Fey, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at Sofia Fey Creates, SOFIAFEYCREATES. And again, they are a reader for Stone of Madness. I'm not sure if they have submissions open right now, but send some work their way. And they're also the editor-in-chief of Cabaret Contributors Journal. You can check out their current publications, including that Kissing Dynamite publication. It's such a beautiful thing when editors get to hear their work that they selected out loud. You can find that on Sophia's Twitter, again, at Sofia Fey Creates. So yeah, wow, it's again always bittersweet to get to the end of a reading order, but my heart got ripped in half somewhere in there and is slowly stitching itself back together. So it is sad to get to the end, but thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their incredible work with us this evening. Thank you to our listeners for giving this hour of your lives over to poetry. And I hope if you're listening, you might consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety, Performance ANXT on Twitter, and soon to be on Instagram too, or at my email, which is just tomsnarski@gmail.com. We would love to have you share your work at a future event. Tell your friends. That's how we get some of our amazing readers. We get these beautiful, close-knit poetry communities, collectives that show up on here, and it's just a really beautiful thing. Our next reading is going to be on January 21st, which will be at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. There's definitely slots still open for that one. And as a closing gesture, I'm going to read a poem that feels holiday-ish, called Home Again by the poet Nyla Northson. Home again. My own bed. my own couch, and especially my dear, sweet, patient computer. Shit. Now why won't it work? New downloads, telephone company bad connection? And my tomatoes waited for me, bright red and heavy. And all my half-done projects stayed that way, for me, knowing my truck-weary body was anxious to accomplish something. Maybe I'll even finish one before I start another. But Xmas is around the corner. Oh, I'm so all over the place. Happy to be home.